Sprint 8. Sprint 8 is accessed by going into the menu, Workouts, and then selecting Sprint 8 on the screen. It gives you the option of how many sprints you wish to do. 8 is the best number, and then you press go. Once you press go, every rider will go through a 3-minute warm-up. During this warm-up, you want to have progressive amounts of resistance and progressive amounts of speed. By the end of the warm-up, you should have people ready to cycle at RPMs of at least 100. Sprint 8 is a high-intensity, sprint-intensity workout, which is performed via 30 seconds of work, followed by 90 seconds of recovery, repeated 8 times. Every time you work for 30 seconds, the bike is monitoring your performance and giving you what we call a sweat score. At the end of a ride, all of those scores are added together and you will get your sweat score. Now, it's important to remember that the sweat score is only generated from the work done during the 8 sprints. There is nothing to be gained from working hard during the recovery period. It does not contribute to your sweat score. If you're doing Sprint 8 correctly, you will need all of the recovery that we give you. If anybody finishes this class and says, I could have done more, I could have done 9, or I could have gone heavier, or I could have gone faster, or I didn't need as much recovery, unfortunately, they didn't do it correctly. If you sprint as hard as you can against as much resistance as you can for 30 seconds, you will need the entire 90 seconds to recover. If you do that correctly, you will not want to do any more than 8 repetitions. As you come towards the end of the warm-up, you want to prepare the class for what's coming next. You want to tell them that as they cross the start line of their 30-second sprint, they want to be up to speed. They want to have made all of the adjustments to the resistance before the 30 seconds starts, so that they can purely focus on putting the work in. Remember, we're looking for speeds of around about 100 to 120 RPM as a maximum. Many riders will ask, is it better to sit or stand when I do my sprints? A really high performance athlete will be able to stand throughout the entire 30 seconds. But for most people, they'll find that they can stand at the start or the acceleration phase of the 30 seconds and then sit back into the seat and maintain that speed for the remainder of the 30 seconds. Once you've completed your 30 seconds, the console goes into an automatic 90-second recovery period. During this time, the goal is to just keep the pedals moving. There is nothing to be gained by going fast or working against resistance. So take all of the resistance off and just pedal as slowly as you possibly can and enjoy the recovery period. When you're instructing Sprint 8, it's best to give all of your information to the group during the recovery periods. It's tempting to think that you can motivate people to work harder by maybe shouting at them during those 30 seconds. But to be honest, if they're working hard, they're probably not able to listen to you as well. So anything you say is not really going to make a big difference. So it's better to give them important information or moral support, motivation, during those 90-second recovery phases. There's actually a psychological reaction called the exercise paradox, which basically is a primal instinct to conserve energy. It's basically the body using any excuse it can to do less work. So encouraging people or shouting at people during the 30 seconds can sometimes be taken wrongly and be off-putting and be demotivational. And that can trigger the exercise paradox. The exercise paradox is our instinctive way of conserving energy. And when doing sprint 8, slowing down or lifting the resistance is effectively the exercise paradox kicking in. So as instructors, we need to do everything in our control to keep people focused and working when we need them to. The more often you do sprint 8, you'll start to notice that all 8 sprints start to become very similar in their level of performance. When you do sprint 8 for the first few times, it's not unusual to be nervous about the level of intensity that you're asked to work at. And therefore you can find that sometimes the first few sprints or the last few sprints come in at a very different level of intensity or sweat score than all of the others. This is simply you getting used to the system. The better you get, the more consistent your 8 sprints will be. Sprint 8 is hard work, so it helps to know why we should push ourselves this hard. Also, how do we know we are doing it correctly? Sprint 8 is a specific type of high-intensity interval training. Success in HIIT is usually defined by elevated heart rates. But in Sprint 8, a high heart rate is inevitable, not a marker of success, because Sprint 8 is sprint intensity training and has a unique set of markers which indicate sprint intensity was successfully achieved. Number 1, you will feel muscle burn because sprint intensity takes you and your muscles beyond lactic acid threshold. You will especially feel it in the big muscle groups which generate the most power. Number 2, forced breathing or deep diaphragmatic breathing. When you perform sprint intensity, you will experience oxygen debt. That may sound negative, but that's how your body improves. Number 3, increased body temperature also occurs as a result of sprint intensity. A rise of 1 degree body temperature is normal, so you will feel hot. 20% of the fuel that we use during sprint intensity creates mechanical force, whilst 80% creates heat. Number 4, the final physical sensation you'll notice when you achieve sprint intensity is adrenal stress response. This is your body releasing adrenaline into your bloodstream. It sounds dramatic,
But to your body, sprint intensity feels like you are running away from danger. Another term for adrenal stress response is flight or fight. None of these physical responses sound fun. But actually, when you have felt them a few times during Sprint 8, they will become something you look forward to rather than fear. You may think people benefit from being shouted at and motivated when they are doing Sprint 8, or any type of intense exercise. The opposite may in fact be true because of a human reaction called exercise paradox. When you are doing Sprint 8, we continuously need to suppress the exercise paradox. The exercise paradox is an inbuilt reaction we have to save energy. What the instructor says can actually trigger the exercise paradox. Poorly chosen words can literally cause people to give up. Instead of saying things like, go faster, be more specific. Instead say, find more speed, push through the pedals, think about your quads, think about your glutes. Breathe deeply to feed those muscles with the oxygen they need. Don't say things like, 1 down, 7 to go. Instead say, great work. That sprint got us all closer to our goal. Even counting down the last few seconds of a sprint interval is a bad idea. If you say, just 5 seconds to go, many people will ease up too soon. Instead, encourage people to ride right through the finish line.
key to a good Sprint 8 session is working as hard as possible during the sprints and maximizing recovery. As you come into the last sprint, it's important to remember that this is called Sprint 8, not Power 8. So prioritize speed rather than overloading on resistance. If you can maintain upwards of 100 RPM, you will be enhancing your sweat score enormously. But that's not to say if you can't hit 100 RPM, you're not doing yourself good. It's just a good target to work towards. As you approach the last of the 30-second sprints, it's important to remember that each one of those sprints contributes to your sweat score. So working hard right to the very, very end is what we're trying to do. Katie's going to build up her speed so that as she crosses the start line of that sprint, she's already going as fast as she can. Remember, if you wait until the timer starts to sprint, you're going to lose valuable seconds of sprint time. As we see, she comes out of the seat while she increases that speed. She adjusts her resistance because she felt that she's got enough confidence to push a little bit harder now that she knows that this is the final sprint. This is the last 30 seconds of work that she's going to be asked to do, and therefore she's giving everything she's got. She started standing, and then she sat back into the seat, trying to maintain that speed. After the 8th sprint, the bike will automatically go into the cool-down phase. This is a 2.5-minute ride where you can reduce the resistance to minimal and you can reduce your RPM to minimal. Your sweat score is not influenced by what you do during the cool-down, so there is no need to work. The purpose of this is just to gradually slow down the effects of exercise to bring the heart rate back to a more relaxed state. The purpose of the cool down is simply to bring the body back to its pre-exercise state, to bring the heart rate down and to slow the breathing to a calmer, more natural tempo. Make sure that you keep riding for the entire 2.5 minutes of the cool down, because it's not until you've completed the cool down that your sweat score will be displayed on the console. As the cooldown counts down to 0, you're about to see your sweat score. When you finish that cooldown, the screen will display the individual score for all 8 sprints and the cumulative total, which is your overall sweat score for that ride.